I beat Pokémon FireRed with the statistically worst Pokémon possible. With the worst base stats in the entire game, using only Azurill would be a difficult task. If I started normally at level 5, the only attacking move I would have is Splash, which does nothing. I ended up starting at level 10. But this doesn't mean I was powerful. Azurill didn't seem that bad until I reached Viridian Forest. I knew the situation clearly when I couldn't even beat Bugcatcher Rick. He has a Caterpie and a Weedle, both lower level than me. But I stood no chance, even after multiple tries. This run was looking grim. I skipped every trainer in the forest, until I was forced to face Bugcatcher Sammy. I narrowly won with 14 HP and poison as I entered Pewter City. Luckily, all of Brock's Pokemon were weak to me, so I was able to win first try. But the same can't be said about this batch of trainers here. I died to Bugcatcher Colton, and I continued to for a while, until I had tried long enough to hit level 15. Here I learned Slam, which would change the run forever. I one-shot the entire team and blew through everything else with ease. My next stop was Mount Moon. It went quite well, and I even got to kill a shiny Geodude. I was able to replace Bubble with Water Gun, and was on my way to Cerulean City. I was on Nugget Bridge, where I faced the rival, but I was struggling against his Charmander. I wasn't weak against it, but it was just really powerful. I decided to challenge the gym first. Taking out Misty Staryu was easy, but I would take one hit doing so. I was two-shot to Starmie, meaning I didn't even have a chance. I leveled up to the point where I could withstand the second hit. Both Misty Super Potion, I was out of luck. After countless attempts, nothing changed, except for how much I'd leveled up. Over this period of time, I had gone from level 24 to 28, meaning I could two-shot Starmie. On top of that, the first attack didn't deal enough damage to make Misty want to use a potion, not as if it matters though. Azurill learned Water Pulse, which let me blow through the rival fight and get through Nugget Bridge. I was recruited by Team Rocket, but after I refused, they gave me a valuable nugget and proceeded to fight. If I were to die, I would go back and get another nugget, just giving me more money. Of course, I would never cheat the game like this. It just happened to be a difficult fight that took me 3 tries. I went on to this patch of enemies, and I had to abandon the tail whip only strategy I used on this man. But once I was done, I was gifted a ticket onto the SS Sand. Unfortunately, I had another rival battle here. I walked around, breaking into people's rooms and fighting them, in hopes of leveling up, but made very little progress. I went back to fight and beat Pidgeotto and Eradicate with ease. Kadabra knew Disable, which made everything a mess, but I got through it. Once I reached Charmeleon, I missed my attack and fell to Metal Claw. The next try I used Water Pulse and realized it would two-shot him. I wasn't fast enough that time, but knew the next try would be the winning one. And so I picked up Cut and cut me out, which I wasn't allowed to use for anything but Cut. I went into the gym, and after the most annoying puzzle of my life, I started the fight with Lieutenant Surge. On the first try, Slam took care of every Pokemon, giving me an easy win. I was walking peacefully until this thing just ruined everything. I know it's not even that comfortable. Why is he sleeping here? So I ended up taking a separate route through Diglett Cave, and man, this place pissed me off. An encounter every half step, and you can't even escape half the time. But after taking out a few enemies, I was put in an even worse cave. Now I could see through here if I used Flash, but I'm not Asho Speed, so I went through normally. All the trainers were easy, and I just followed a step-by-step tutorial until I reached Lavender Town. At the moment, there was nothing I could do here, but it gave me an entrance to Celadon City. The first thing I did here was challenge Erica's gym, but I made sure to challenge a few of the trainers for some XP. I went into the fight where I was harshly confronted by Weepinbell. It took a while, but I was able to get past it with a 19 HP. I was able to land a critical slam on Tangela, one-shotting it, and after spamming a lot of heals and slams, not even Vileplume's Giga Drain got past me. My next destination was Saffron City. The gym ended up being closed due to Team Rocket. For some reason, I thought I had to go through here first, and I really struggled on this first trainer, but I had a choice of 2, and I beat the other one just fine. Once I'd beaten all 3, I was greeted by the choice of 2 free Pokemon. Not what I expected, but I still walked out with a Hitmonchan that would go right to the Pokemon Center. I went to the game corner to try and get rid of Team Rocket. The first few grunts were easy, but those puzzles weren't. At some point, this was too far, like what's the point? Eventually, I got to the boss, and this fight was hard. I could deal with Onix and Rhyhorn, but not Kangaskhan. Mega Punch was far too powerful for Zero to handle. That is, until he finally made the mistake of using Bite and letting me get an easy win. I decided my stats could use an upgrade, so I used some Calcium, Protein, and HP ups. These would come to pretty good use, as right when I entered the Ghost Tower, I was challenged by the rival. I could see how powerful I was, one-shotting most of his Pokemon with a crit on Charmeleon. The rest of Ghost Tower was easy. Normal type moves didn't work, so I ended up letting Water Pulse carry me through here, and finally used the Pokeflute to wake up this Snorlax and fight it. I was on my way to Fuchsia City, and I noticed that the enemies here were starting to catch up to me in level, somewhat. Once I got in, I challenged Koga, the local gym leader. His muck was pretty annoying and killed me first try. It knew Minimize, which didn't pair well with Slam's 75% accuracy, and because I was poisoned, he could just spam this, waiting for me to die, each turn lowering the chances of me hitting Slam. On the second attempt, I ended up hitting both Slams first try without even being poisoned. The 2 coughings were easy, and while wheezing was a close call, I landed the final attack confidently. I was back in Saffron City, where I entered the Sylph Company headquarters. Everything was going well, and I was taking out the enemies smoothly, until I reached another rival fight. I don't know why he keeps wanting something to fight at the worst times. Pidgeot wiped the floor with me on my first try. I kept missing Slam, and Feather Dance lowered my attack a lot. So even if I did hit it, not much would happen. On my second try, I was able to defeat Pidgeot. It was mostly luck based on which attack he used on me. Gyarados was pretty easy, but surprisingly, Charizard was insane. I gave it another few tries, but spamming heals could only go so far. I was 3-shot to Flamethrower, meaning if I used a heal on one turn, I could land one attack before I died. This technically would have won it for me with enough heals, but unfortunately, the burn status would eventually creep up on me, meaning I would die before landing a single hit. Even without this, he seemed to crit a lot, and in that long a fight, it happened nearly every time. Charizard would take 3 hits to kill. Assuming that was possible, it would only have a 42% chance of happening because of Slam's accuracy. But if Pidgeot never landed a Feather Dance, it would get this close on just the second attack. This seemed more realistic, so I leveled up Azurill by 2 and went back in, hoping Slam could take out Charizard on the second hit. Chances are, it would have only taken me a few tries to do this. Luckily, I landed a crit this time, so I was fine either way. Execute and Alakazam were easy, meaning I could finally move on from this fight. I was well prepared for Giovanni, so I won first try, picked up my Master Ball, and left. My next fight was with Sabrina, and after walking randomly around these teleporters for a while, I arrived at the battle. I took out Kadabra and almost one-shot Mr. Mime, but after this, I somehow died. Unlucky, I guess. But on my second try, Slam one-shot every single Pokemon, getting me the win. After a while, I arrived at Cinnabar Island, where I entered the Pokemon Mansion. The pure amount of encounters here was crazy. There was really no point to it, but at least it was a break from any major fights. So once I was done, I made my way to Blaine's gym. I must admit that I did not go crazy on the quiz, and fought a few trainers because of it, but at least amongst the shame, I got some XP. Blaine's Growlithe got me around half health. Ponyta was easy, but I failed a Rapidash. A while later, I finally got past Rapidash, but stood no chance to Arcanine. This fight was going to be pretty hard, but I got a really lucky run. After tanking a takedown, I used Slam, and he missed Fire Blast, and right after, my next Slam crit, getting me an extremely improbable win. After this, I went to the 3 islands. Not sure why though. I didn't get any benefit doing this. I also had to fight these bikers, which was pretty hard. Once I was done with everything here, I was faced by the final gym. Rhyhorn was one-shot to Water Pulse, but once Nidoqueen came out, things got bad. Slam almost one-shot it, but I was hit by a critical Earthquake, along with being poisoned. We both used Hyper Potions, but my next Slam missed. The Earthquake did not. Luckily, I was able to out-heal and win. Next up was Nidoking. I one-shot him, but I was still poisoned. Once the Dugtrio came out, I only narrowly survived, but with a Hyper Potion and a Water Pulse, I got through. The final Rhyhorn was fine, and I was ready to finish off the game. Before going on to Victory Road, I needed 2 things. The first was the Strength TM, so I went to the Warden's place to get it. I also had one more rival fight, but this time, with enough heals, it was quite easy. I took longer in the Victory Road puzzle than I'd like to admit, but I won't talk about it. Still, there was one important thing here, the Double Edge TM. I hadn't changed my moveset in a while, so getting this would really help. I also added Blizzard to my arsenal, having my final moveset look like this. I entered the Elite Four with a level 76 Azurill and put in countless attempts, but my goal was not to win. If I could just knock out 2 or 3 Pokemon, then die, it would be a very fast way to gain XP. But still, getting to level 100 would take a while. I had 4 rare candies, and after finding all the others that I could, I had 11. And once I got to level 89, I used them all up and was finally max level. I was ready to fight, but once I realized how powerful Ice would be in this gym, I decided Blizzard might not be a good option, as it only has 5 PP. But the only other viable option was Ice Beam, which could be obtained at the game corner. If I were to spend money on it, I would need $80,000, and my only alternative was gambling. It wasn't going well at the beginning. I tried lots of secret strategies, but nothing was really helpful. That is, until I slowed the game down to 1/50th of its normal speed. It still wasn't easy because there was an inconsistent amount of delay between when I pressed the button and when the wheel actually stopped spinning, but after a while, I had enough money to buy Ice Beam. Now I could finally start the Elite Four with everything set up, plus an incredible amount of Hyper Potions. The first member was easy. I'd already fought her so many times grinding that I knew everything that might happen. I fought the second member a few times to find the most efficient strategy. I'll take out both Onyxes with Water Pulse, Hitmonchan and Hitmonlee with Slam, and Machamp with Double Edge. I tried to avoid using Double Edge the most because it had a lot of recoil damage and only 15 PP. The third member was really the hardest of all though. Gengar could poison me and put me to sleep, forcing me to spam heals, because while I was asleep he would use Nightmare. It was also immune to normal type moves, so I resorted to using Water Pulse, my weakest attack. I lost many runs here and decided that I would need some status heals, so I picked up 8 of them and went back in. It helped, but I was still really struggling. I was able to get past it though. Golbat and Arbok were fine, and it was going well until the second Gengar came out. My strategy here was to switch between healing and using the Pokeflute to wake myself up. If you used a Nightmare by accident when I was awake, I would land an attack. After a while, all that was left was Haunter, who I destroyed with 2 Ice Beams. I was finally on the last member, Lance. Gyarados was easy, and with enough heals, I was able to narrowly beat Aerodactyl. From here, all I had to do was beat the 2 Dragonair and a Dragonite, which showed no challenge. Now, I was ready for the final rival battle. He immediately threw out Pidgeot, who was able to lower my attack. It had happened many times before though, so I was prepared and brought a guard spec, letting me kill it before it even had a chance to use Feather Dance. Next up was Alakazam. He could use Disable, forcing me to cycle through moves. His Sidekick did a lot more damage than I thought, and after taking recoil damage, I was almost dead. Executor was easy with Ice Beam. He didn't keep healing with Giga Drain either because he was frozen. Water Pulse one-shot right on, and I took out Gyarados safely. But I made the mistake of meeting Charizard needing to heal. This never gave me a chance to attack, and I died. The second run, I still went in with low HP, but with an idea this time. I could heal more times than he could use Fire Blast, so if I stalled until he ran out of PP, I would only be faced with a weak Slash. This made the fight easy, and I was finally the champion. That's the end of the video though, and if you enjoyed it, you might like this one, where I beat Pokemon Platinum without dealing damage. Also, shout out to the member this month, Baus.